So, Kalimera Alada. As mentioned, my name's Jamie Coleman. I'm very used to walking around on the stage, and I've been told I'm not allowed to because of the cameras. So if I get a bit fidgety, I do apologise. What I'm talking about today, I'm talking about the magic of automation and how it can help our lives. So a bit about myself. So I am a developer advocate at Sonatype. I used to work at IBM, so I worked on mainframes, worked on WebSphere, worked on IBM's JVM, which is OpenJ9. And then I decided I liked talking to people, I like educating developers, so I decided to do this a bit more full-time. Joined Sonatype about a year and a half ago because I got bored about talking about Java microservices for the last 3 years. So I thought I'd go in a new direction and talk about security instead. Something we all try to avoid if it's general, but unfortunately there's bad people in the world that make us have to pay attention to this stuff. So this is why I'm here. So hands up, has anyone heard of Sonatype? I guarantee you use us pretty much probably every day if you work in Java. So we run Maven Central. So hands up, who uses Maven Central? Who downloads dependencies from there? Okay. So my boss created Maven essentially. He's one of the original Maven creators. And he created Maven Central. Maven Central was running on a big desktop underneath his desk for years. But as you can imagine, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. I think last year we served 1 trillion open source projects. So you can imagine our cloud AWS bill is not very cheap. Some products you might be familiar with. We were the first ever artifact repository in the world. So people may be familiar with Nexus, but we do lots of other different things to help you make your applications more secure. So to get started, this topic touches on AI quite a bit. I've been quite interested in AI for quite a long time since I've been at IBM. I know AI has only got popular over the last few years, but AI has been a thing for a very, very long time, so hence why I wanted to create this talk. But the main reason for this talk is I want to tell you how bad people are using AI to essentially attack us. And if we don't take advantage of AI, we will be left behind. So basically, I want to talk about how AI became about. I've actually used AI to generate some slides, and I want you to try and see if you can see the bias in these slides, because I asked the AI exactly the same question. But one answer gave me complete bias. So we can talk about that later. Should we be worried as engineers about AI taking our jobs? A little bit about how we can use AI as developers, and a little bit about how we use AI at Sonatype. So the AI revolution. Again, it's only become popular over the last few years, but AI has been around a very, very long time. Alan Turing, who's considered one of the godfathers of modern day computers, he actually created the Turing test in 1950, which is a measure of if AI is essentially smarter than humans. So he knew in 1950 that this was already going to become a thing. He knew computers were going to get powerful enough to essentially perform human tasks. So in 1950, he created the Turing test. In 1955, there was a logic theorist test. The first ever chatbot, 1966. So as you can see, this stuff is old. This isn't new. It's only because of certain things that have happened recently that people talk about this stuff. But it goes on and on. IBM was doing stuff with AI since 1997. The Roomba was the first ever AI in our homes. They actually implemented AI inside these robot vacuum cleaners. Of course, IBM Watson, which is probably one of the most famous AI systems pre-ChatGPT, was created in 2011. Eugene Goodsman is another AI robot. And then, of course, we get onto ChatGPT. So a bit more detail about some of these things. So the Turing test. This was originally called The Imitation Game by Alan Turing. So I don't know if you've ever watched the film. Amazing, amazing film. Essentially, it was a test to test the machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior, so equivalent to or indistinguishable from a human. So if you had lots of humans in a room, they could not tell the difference between a robot or a computer and another human. So that's essentially the Turing test, and if that could be passed, then you can basically prove that AI has got to the point where it can mimic humans. IBM created Deep Blue in 1985, so again, quite a long time. This was essentially built to beat the best chess players in the world. It did lose its first attempts. It was basically playing against Gary Kasparov with IBM winning 2 matches and him winning 4. But IBM being IBM was not going to allow him to win. So they went back to the drawing board, and in 1997, they challenged Gary again. And at this time, bear in mind, he was the world chess champion of the world. And they did 6 matches over several days, and 2 of them were won by IBM. 1 was won by the champion himself, and 3 of them were draws. So this was the first time a computer could beat a world chess champion. And again, this was in 1997. This isn't something new. So AI has been doing this for a while. IBM Watson, and I can talk about IBM because I can talk about them in not the best light because I don't work there anymore. But they created IBM Watson, which was an amazing, amazing piece of AI. They were developing that while I worked there. And essentially, they put it on a game show called Jeopardy in the United States. And these are some of the best quiz people in the world. And it won. It won like really, really well. The prize was $1 million US. It probably cost that in electricity to run the machine just for that show because it was absolutely huge. But that wasn't the point. IBM was trying to prove that AI had now got powerful enough that it could just jump on a quiz show and beat any human. And that's what it did. In 2013, they started using it in healthcare. So this, for me, was, I think, the moment I saw real great use for AI. Because you can imagine a doctor in a GP, he cannot keep up to date on every new medical advancement. There is just too many happening on a constant basis. But computers can. So don't get me wrong, this isn't going to replace a doctor, but this can find solutions, this can find remedies, cures for things that he may just not have learned yet. He can't read 10, 20 new medical journals every day. So in my mind, this was really a point where an AI could really help us as humanity. But unfortunately, IBM being IBM, they sold it all before it became popular again. IBM has a habit of creating stuff ahead of its time. So I held the first ever smartphone, massive thing. IBM created it. It was massive. It was just ahead of its time, so it was never going to work. I held one of the first tablets in the world. It was about that thick, and it weighed as much as this table. Never going to take off, but they had the idea. Unfortunately, they tried to sell things before the idea actually goes anywhere. But yeah, IBM was doing AI quite a long time ago. Now, Eugene Goodsman, this is possibly the most advanced chatbot of its time. It was developed in Russia, in St. Petersburg, in 2011. Ironically, it was created to portray a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy, ironically. The reason for that was if it made mistakes, it could be a bit more forgiving. You would forgive a young child as opposed to an adult making these kind of same mistakes. But in 2005 and 2008, it finished second in Turing test competitions. And in 2014, on the 60th anniversary of Alan Turing's death, it actually convinced 33% of the judges in this test that it was human. And some people declare this a pass, which means it's basically at the point where AI is now getting to, it's undistinguishable from humans. Now, as a person who looks at conference talks on some committees, just beware if you are submitting talks. AI is great for a lot of things, but I can tell straight away if someone's used AI for a talk. I can identify certain words that most humans won't normally say in a sentence, and they repeat over and over again. So just beware. AI is very good for some things, but it can be predictable, especially if I'm looking at AI-generated stuff over and over again. So where are we nowadays with AI? How has AI come about? So I don't know if you've ever tried any of the image filling stuff. This is Adobe's image fill, but I can essentially ask it to do anything. I can say, just add me some northern lights, add me some snow, and it does it pretty much perfectly, which is quite scary. We're kind of getting into an age where it's hard to tell the difference between real and non-real. We've all seen the funny videos that are generated using AI online. So yeah, it's getting scarily close to really, really not being able to differentiate if it's a human or not. But in my mind, what's made AI popular recently is this, ChatGPT. ChatGPT essentially allowed your grandma to use AI, right? That's pretty much what it allowed it to do. Before basically having a web interface, I had to type questions in. I had to call an API. I'd have to call the IBM Watson API, send it certain JSON format to get certain things back. So it could kind of do what ChatGPT does, but it wasn't in a web interface that, you know, anyone can pretty much go to a browser, type in English or whatever language, and it will respond. So this is, in my mind, where the shift has gone and why AI is popular, because everyone can use it. There was a thing that can't remember the actor's name now, in the United States, where I don't know if you've seen it, it's a really, really good video, but he essentially used ChatGPT to create a Mint Mobile advertisement in the States, and it did it flawlessly, like really, really well. So I think AI has a lot of applications, but what I really think has made it popular is the accessibility for everyone to use it. So there's many chat systems based off ChatGPT, but it has a tendency to provide not the most accurate information sometimes, and there is a dark side of this technology. So in order to train this stuff, we have to train it to avoid like sexual abuse, violence, racism, sexism, things like that. But a human has to do that. And so what they did is they outsourced this to some Kenyan workers for less than $2 an hour. Now, can you imagine the horrible things they had to look at? The horrible messages people in society write into ChatGPT. And that basically, it was so toxic that they basically described the experience as torture. Now, ChatGPT has changed the way they do this. They don't do this anymore. But again, going back, we have to train these systems to avoid these horrible things that people write into them. And that can be quite painful sometimes. So what can we get out of AI? Well, so Sonatype, we run a report every year called the State of the Software Supply Chain. So the supply chain is kind of like, we're all building applications, but 90% of the code in our applications, we didn't write, we borrowed it. We went online, we downloaded a dependency, which had the functionality and we wanted to do, and we used that code. But that code now consists of 90% in our modern applications. So because we run Maven Central and we have a lot of data on this stuff, we compile a report every year. And in this report, we talked a little bit about AI. So it's the last chapter. But for developer productivity, I kind of have this theory that AI is not going to take our jobs, but someone who can use AI might. So there's lots of different ways and lots of different free tools and things you can use as a developer to make your lives easier. So code snippets basically creates error-prone and performance-optimized code, so you can create bad code to kind of test it, to find edge cases. We all know what Copilot is. It's been around a while now to basically help you get started with code, to make sure you don't write bad coding, things like that. If you use regex at all, auto regex is amazing. I hate it. Every time I had to do regex, I hated it. But this can basically, you can write in pure English and it will convert it into regex for you. So that is very, very useful if you're doing regex. Mintify basically writes documentation for you, because we have to write documentation, right? It's just one of the things we have to do, but as engineers, it's not something we like to do. So Mintify can basically understand complicated functions in your code and write the documentation for you. So those are just some of the tools we can use as developers to basically take advantage of AI and basically make our lives a little bit easier. Now, should I be worried about AI? Should we all be worried about AI taking our jobs? Yes and no, and I'll answer that in a moment. But the next 20 slides I didn't write. I basically asked ChatGPT, can you give me the advantages of AI? And then I asked it the same question, but changed the word advantages to disadvantages. So let's see if it can replace my job. It's a bit scary. It definitely can write presentations, I'll give it that. So first of all, ChatGPT came back with increased efficiency. So AI technology can automate repetitive and mundane tasks, freeing up human resources for more complex and creative work. Yeah, I agree with that. Enhanced decision-making, AI algorithms can look through mass amounts of data very, very quickly and very, very accurately. And this allows us to make informed decisions, because if a human had to go through that same data, it would take a very, very long time. Improve customer experience, so we can track what customers do, what they like doing, things like that. We have the world has tons of data on people these days. So we can use AI-powered chatbots to basically customize the experience they have when they talk to a company. It knows I'm Jamie Coleman, that I want to talk to you, and it knows what I do with that company. So then it can tailor its responses to me as opposed to just a random person. Cost savings, how can it save us costs? Well, AI can help businesses reduce costs by automating processes and eliminating the need for manual labor. So anything we have to manually do over and over again, AI can help us with that. Innovation and creativity. So AI enables researchers and scientists to tackle problems by leveraging computational power and advanced algorithms. So similar to the other one. Improve safety. So AI can be employed in various industries to enhance safety and reduce risk. For example, autonomous vehicles is one way they can do that. Personalized experiences. So AI can analyze user data, kind of what I mentioned before. Again, this is all ChatGPT generated. And then to conclude, ChatGPT said artificial intelligence offers numerous advantages across various industries, from increased efficiency, enhanced decision-making, to improved customer experience and cost saving. So kind of nothing biased there. Sounds correct, right? I don't think there's anything crazy there. Now I ask it the same question, but with disadvantages. So first of all, the one that a lot of people get worried about, job displacement. AI and automation technologies have the potential to replace human workers in various industries. That is true. Lack of human judgment and intuition. So humans have empathy. We can understand if something's, not quite right, if people get upset about something. We take people's emotions into consideration. AI can't do that, so AI systems lack that ability, which is one thing. Privacy concerns. So we saw this with Copilot when it first came out. The training data it was using was from private repositories, which was a big no-no. It's called private for a reason, right? So privacy concerns is always one of them. You can ask it certain information about people and it'll say, no, that doesn't abide by our rules. But then you change the question and then all of a sudden it provides you with lots of information about that person. So again, privacy concerns are one of them. Dependence on technology. Now, I don't think this is just an AI problem. I think this is humanity in general, but over-reliance on AI technology can make societies vulnerable to system failures and cyber attacks, which is very, very true, but I still think that's the case anyway. If our internet went off, if our phones all of a sudden died, there was an EMP blast, I'm sure we would all be stressing a lot about that stuff. Ethical considerations, for example, AI algorithms, can perpetuate and amplify existing biases, so like I was talking about here, but it all depends on what they're trained on. Lack of emotional intelligence, so different cultures have different way of doing things, and it's very difficult for AI to empathize with human emotions, kind of like what I mentioned before. Unemployment and income inequality, as AI automates certain jobs, and it will, it can exacerbate income equality and create a divide between those who benefit from AI and those who do not, which I think is true. Lack of accountability is a good one. So we look at self-driving cars, right? A self-driving car, it's going down the road. A child runs in front of the car. Now the AI in that car has to make a decision. Do I kill this child? Do I go on to the other side of the road where there's oncoming traffic, which I could kill people there? Do I kill the old lady that's on the side path? It's like this AI has to make that decision. But then who's accountable for that? I'm not driving the vehicle, and the vehicle decided that possibly that going onto the other side of the road is the best option. But you can't take a robot to prison. You can't take a server to prison. I mean, you could, but it doesn't make sense. So it's like kind of lack of accountability there. So in conclusion, so again, all these slides were generated. While AI offers numerous benefits, it is important to be aware of its potential disadvantages. Addressing these challenges requires careful consideration, regulation, and ethical frameworks. Now, did anyone see the difference between the advantages and the disadvantages? It's very, very one thing different. Hands up, anybody? No? Because I asked it exactly the same question. If we go through these, as you can see, why is it giving me 2 points for all the disadvantages and 3 points? I asked it the same question, and as you can see, ChatGPT, of course it wants to favor AI. It's not going to say it's rubbish, but it's already given me bias there, and I asked it only one word different. So we have to be very, very careful. So maybe I should be a little bit worried. It did do quite a good job at generating those slides. I think there's quite a time away before it stands on stage and does this. But should we be worried in general as developers, as engineers? Like I said, yes and no, for different reasons. So we all perceive robots are becoming, like this, a super advanced robot. Now, this is a long, long way away. It's going to be a long time before a robot can build a house, for example. Now, yes, I know there are examples of certain robots doing certain things, but it's going to be a long time. But this always makes me laugh. So to replace programmers with AI, project managers need to accurately describe what they want. So I think we're okay. I think we're safe for the time being. But it is getting more and more advanced. So I don't think we have to worry as engineers. I don't think AI is going to take our jobs. I think someone who knows how to use AI might. So people who are not taking advantage of this technology, because this technology is the future, they will be left behind in our industry. So it's not a case of us being completely replaced with AI. It's a case of someone who knows how to use AI and do your job with AI a lot more efficiently he's more likely to win a job than you are if you don't use it and you do stuff manually. But kind of what I like to talk about, because again, Sonatype, software supply chain security, how the bad guys have evolved over the years. Now, cyber crime has got bigger and bigger and bigger. It's got a lot more sophisticated. Bear in mind, it was very difficult to do cybercrime before everything was connected to the internet. And a lot of the time people they do use cybercrime to make money. Well, that is changing. We now have countries, sponsored hacking groups by countries. They're not in it to make money, they're in it to take down national infrastructure of other countries. Whether that could be our power systems, whether it could be our medicine creation facilities, even our grocery stores. And they're not even doing it when they get straight in. They might find a vulnerability and wait for a specific time to take advantage of this. It could be a national holiday, it could be Christmas. When can they cause the most damage? And that is what they're waiting to do. Now, running Maven Central, it has multiple layers of protection. Java made some decisions very, very early on, which have helped us. First of all, with Maven Central, and a lot of the other repositories don't do this, you have to own the domain. So I have to, for example, own the org.apache.logging.log4j domain if I'm putting up a new version. Nobody else can do that, right? So that protection we've had from the beginning. It wasn't a popular decision, but now it's proving popular because the other repository language ecosystems are trying to copy it. Because if you look at the Python and the Node repositories, they are absolutely full of malware. Now, you will not find malware in Maven Central, not specifically for this reason, because someone could create a new domain. You won't find it because we have scanners that scan stuff. But this doesn't completely protect you in Java. So, for example, someone could just add a massive version number on at the end. So whoever gets latest will pick that up. But again, you can't do that because you have to own the domain. So only the person who owns that domain can put a new version up. Of course, their accounts could get hacked, their details could get hacked, etc. But regardless of that, you can't just put a really long version number up. For example, here, they've added log.j4 instead of log4j. Again, you still have to own the org.apache.logging domain to upload that. So again, they typo squatting, they can't do that. Unfortunately, they can create a new domain. So they could create org Apache spelt differently, and then they could put stuff up there. Now, the way people get attacked by this is they accidentally spell stuff wrong, right? I do it all the time. For some reason, whenever I used to write Docker, I used to write Dicker. I have no idea. I don't know why, but that's what used to come out. But it's kind of simple things like that as a developer that you may not care too much about, and you put it in, and it downloads a dependency. So you think, okay, great, I've got the dependency I want. Little do you know, some bad person has put a bad dependency in, which has a vulnerability, and now your whole system's vulnerable. How long have we got? 17 minutes. But like I said, with Maven Central, you have to own a domain. So that bit of security there has helped us. But with Python and Node, that's not so much the case. And again, they have a lot of malware in their repositories, like a crazy amount. But this stuff is hard, trying to defend yourself against all these bad people and all these, because we're using so much open source stuff. We didn't write any of this. So, how many of you actually pay attention to the dependencies you use if they've got vulnerabilities in, if they're maintained well and things like that? We all like to download popular libraries, but these things do contain vulnerabilities. We saw with Log4j, possibly the biggest security breach in history. We saw with that people were just happy to pull it down without properly testing it and etc. So for security reasons. So we have to be very, very careful. If we're not willing to write all this code ourselves, we have to be very careful that we're not just pulling down anything. So this stuff is hard, but again, for Maven Central, we're pretty good. Now, we have some enterprise scanners that use AI, so all malware is rejected from Maven Central regardless. I do get asked from time to time, why don't we take down the vulnerable Log4j version? Well, that wasn't malicious. That was a mistake in the code. And if you can imagine, I think this year we served up 1 trillion downloads. If you can imagine how many builds would break if we took down that vulnerable version, and people might not be touching the bit of code that's vulnerable. It's not like certain languages like Node where you do an npm install and then all of a sudden all the your vulnerabilities are there. With Java, you have to actually touch the line of code or use that functionality to get that vulnerability. So we take a stance where we're not pulling anything down from Maven Central if it's a vulnerability unless it's malware. If it's maliciously put there, then we'll take it down.
But like I said, we're pretty slow to change.
This isn't the latest data. I think I checked this morning, it was about 30%. But in the last 24 hours, again, 33% of downloads of Log4j are still that vulnerable version. Today, this was one of the worst security vulnerabilities in history. And today, in the last 24 hours, 33% of people are still pulling down this version. So this was in 2022, but this is updated every day. So this goes up and down. This is the number we were at last year. That's 272 million downloads of the most vulnerable Java library in history. And it's still going on, it's still going on. But we're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop using open source. Open source is absolutely amazing. Imagine if we had to write the other 90% of our applications, how long it would take us to get our applications shipped out the door into production. But like I said, 90% of our modern applications we're using shared dependencies. And if you take an average Java project, for example, has about 150 dependencies in it. Each one of those dependencies has 10 releases per year. That's 1,500 dependencies we now have to consider as updates every year. I mean, this is an extra task on top of our normal jobs. But what we don't realize is who is looking after these dependencies. Is it that dude in Nebraska that last did it in 2003? We don't know because we're not checking. And guess what? The bad people are now using AI to fully take advantage of this. So not only do we have to worry about the dependencies we download, so I think this is Spring Boot, web starter, but we pull down that dependency, and that pulls down these dependencies, and then these dependencies, and then these dependencies. So we are now having to deal with this mass amount of code that we didn't write to make sure it is secure. And there is now even a service online that will provide you malware. It's called Malware as a Service, and you can go and get it to generate malware for you. A lot of people think the modern face of cybercrime is, it's really difficult tasks, very detailed plots, they're trying to get into the bank, all these screens around, hacking and stuff. In reality, it's not. Most of them are like children. Most of them are young people that are just taking advantage of, for example, malware as a service. All these different things you can use to just generate malware. I don't know if you can still do it, but you could go to ChatGPT and ask it to generate you malware, and it would write the code for you. I don't know if it still does that now, but that's kind of what the bad people are doing. They're not really there. They're not masterminds a lot of the time. They're just poking constantly as many places as they can, and they're throwing little hooks out to try and reel someone in. And what they'll do in the Node and the Python repositories is they'll keep putting dependencies up with vulnerabilities in. Maybe no one will get them, but all it takes is that one person to download that vulnerability, and they've got you. They're in. And they're doing this over and over and over again. So this is one of the, I think it's called Zeus. This is one that, don't go and use it, everybody, but this is one of the malwares of a service you can go online and have a look at, and it will generate you malware. Why it hasn't been taken down, I don't know. But so what is the implications of this? What does cybercrime actually make? What is the cost of this for all of us? So in 2016, I like to use this slide because it scares people a little bit to make them think a little bit more about security. But in 2016, cybercrime surpassed the drug trade. Cybercrime in 2016 was making $450 billion a year. That's equivalent to 14,000 US dollars a second, and that is equivalent to 50 of the world's biggest nuclear aircraft carriers. Bear in mind, I think the US has about 10 of these, and cybercrime in 2016, all combined, could buy 50 of these. It's a good job they're not a country, right? 2022, do you reckon that's gone up? Of course it has. In 2022, that's now $6 trillion US dollars a year. 200,000 US dollars a second. That is equivalent to 620 of the world's biggest nuclear aircraft carriers. That is what cybercrime makes. If I put that into the GDP of a country, it would be the third largest country on the planet. 6 trillion US dollars. Crazy, right? And honestly, do you think he would be dealing drugs today? Guess what? All the drug dealers, they get caught, they get killed, they get shot, they get put in prison. Cyber criminals don't. They go undetected. They make all this money and they never, ever get caught. So I don't think he'd bother being in the drug trade nowadays. He'd be surrounded by computers. He'd employ all his own little hackers and they would be making the money for him, and he'd probably still be alive rather than being shot on the roof of a building. So it's something we do need to make a priority as developers, because unfortunately more is asked of developers than ever before.
And as the years go by, more and more is asked of us. That is just the way it is. But it doesn't have to be difficult. Again, with AI and automation, we can automate a lot of these tasks. The 0-day window is basically the time you have from a vulnerability being released until you get hacked. And in 2006, that was an average of 45 days of down hit. Now, it's less than a day. So when they announce a vulnerability, you have less than a day to fix it. Otherwise, you're most likely going to get attacked. And the problem is, this open source stuff is everywhere. It's in medical devices, it's in aircraft, it's in self-driving cars, it's in trains. It is absolutely everywhere. So as much as open source can help us innovate and let us focus on the business logic, it can also open so many security doors that we just haven't thought about in the past. So kind of to finish up, how Sonatype have been using AI. Now, luckily, we've been using AI for 5 or 6 years, so it was quite easy for me to come and talk about it rather than jumping on the bandwagon because I've already talked about it. But we have been using it for quite a long time, and this is some of the stuff that came out of the software supply chain report. For example, let's find something interesting. 67% respondents feel confident that their applications do not rely on a known vulnerable library, despite 10% of respondents reporting that their organizations had security breaches due to open source. So it's one of those things that I think humans are really bad at. We're a very reactive race, and we're not a proactive race. We like to fix things when they become a problem, rather than solve that problem before it's an issue. And I think humans do that quite a lot. But how do we use AI? So this is kind of the Sonatype platform used in different ways. This essentially is a firewall to stop bad stuff coming from any of these ecosystems into your repository. Lifecycle scans your current stuff, and then Nexus repository is just an artifact repository. But so we need to use AI. Companies need to take advantage of tools and different platforms that use AI to fight AI. So our main AI stuff is all in firewall. So what happens? So basically, your company will go and download a new open source dependency. That goes into our firewall system. If we know about that dependency, then we'll give it a score saying it's this vulnerable out of 10. If we don't know, it goes to our AI and machine learning algorithms. They scan through it line by line. Then, after that, it gives a summary report to our security researchers. They go look at the code themselves. They determine whether that report is correct or not, and then they'll go back and retrain the AI again. So we've been using this for about 4 or 5 years already. This is quite old data, but I think we have confirmed by our security research team 245,000 new vulnerabilities that didn't even exist before this stuff hit our firewall. So basically, the goal here, and this was a bit more better of a demonstration, but it comes in. If we know about it and it's good, okay, you can have it. If we know about it, but we know it's got problems, it'll go quarantine. That's your company's decision what they do with it. If we don't know about it, it goes in here. The AI has a look at it. Security researchers look at it, and then it goes back into quarantine. So essentially, using AI to fight AI is one of the things that we've been doing. You can take advantage of AI really easy in a lot of your companies. We've basically added something called Ask Sona, where we've trained this Sona robot on all of our company's data. Not so much use for the engineers, because we're happy to read documentation, but for like marketing and salespeople that are trying to sort out deals, they, rather than bother us as engineers, they can just go and ask the Sonabot, and Sonabot is trained on all our stuff, so it gives them the right answers most of the time. So it's quite easy to take advantage of AI in our organizations. So this is just some of the ways that some of our products look at current applications, but again, not very specific to AI. I have got 5 minutes left, so I will summarize very, very quickly. To summarize, I don't think AI is going to take all of our jobs anytime soon, so don't worry about that. Current AI technology is not a new thing. It's been around a long time. When people come to me and get all hyped up about ChatGPT, I can predict someone who's used ChatGPT quite easily. Again, because I have to look at conference submissions, I'm like, yeah, that's done by AI, that's done by AI. So it's been around a while. The technology is not anything new. Okay, it's back. It's got popular lately, like I said, because now our grandmas can essentially use it. Like, I introduced it to my mom and she thinks it's the greatest thing ever. So she's been sitting there with ChatGPT constantly. It can make us a hell of a lot more productive. any kind of manual task that doesn't involve creativity and things like that, I think should be automated. Now, whether or not we currently have the tools to do that is another story. But with the help of AI, I think we will create the tools to really, really automate every manual task. AI can be used for evil, like I mentioned. You can ask AI to generate malware. People are creating AI bots that just probe every language repository to see if they can get new stuff in. But we can fight this. We can fight this because we have AI too. And we're very experienced engineers. We're a lot cleverer than these bad people that are sitting in their basements or in their bedrooms. So I kind of want you to take away that, don't be scared of AI, but use AI to fight AI. Now, with that, I have a questionnaire that I'd like people to fill out. And if you do fill it out, I will give you one of these lovely stickers. I do get asked, isn't that a security flaw, having a QR code? Trust me, it's fine. There is nothing hidden bad behind it. I guarantee you. If there is, then, well, fair enough. You can come and moan at me, but I can guarantee you there isn't. But yeah, we just want to find out some basic information about, because nobody seems to know who we are. The amount of time I get, Sonar Source, no, we're not Sonar Source, we're Sonar Type. But the problem is, when I say, talk about Nexus, they're like, oh yeah, we use you. And it's like, oh, okay. So this form is basically to gather your information to figure out what products you use, and if you'd be interested in, say, if we hosted some free meetups and things like that. If you are interested in, because I am not an expert in AI, I use it in my day job, but I'm not an expert. So if you want to find any of the information I've referenced, these links provide it all. I will share this presentation afterwards. If you want to get in touch, you can get in touch with me. I am on LinkedIn and Twitter. But Sonotype, we have a great team that look after all our social stuff, so do get in touch. Some last things. You probably realize Maven Central has had a new look. And when we did that, some people then discovered, oh, someone actually runs Maven Central. Yes, we do. We have been doing the whole time. My boss actually came up with a good idea to get everyone to know that Sonotype run Maven Central. He said, as an April Fool's joke, we should tell everyone in the Java community you now have to pay to download stuff and upload stuff from Maven Central. As a joke, obviously, but then guess what? I bet everyone, all of us stood and know exactly who we are. So yeah, there is a new Maven Central. You can check that out. DevZone is where all our developer stuff are. If you want to see that log4j data, that is updated daily, so that's there as well. Supply chain report, and me and Steve Poole, a guy on my team, we created this FuJ series all about software composition analysis. So different ways you can look at your code to essentially make sure that what you're putting inside of it is secure and healthy. And with that, I will end my talk. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed the conference.
Thank you. Of course, we have time for Q&A, so here we are.
First of all, well done. Nice talk.
Thank you.
Well done not walking on the...
Well, they put the screen there, so if
I just want to ask, from your perspective, what is the biggest challenge creating AI, fighting AI?
Well, so the biggest challenge is the perception of AI. A lot of companies are very, very restrictive on its uses, to the point that I'm okay. I'm in a weird little department where I'm allowed to do what I want, whereas the engineering department is not. They're very restrictive on what systems they can use, etc., because they're very scared of confidential information leaving and being stolen from companies. I think one of the biggest challenges we have at the moment is adoption, because there are now so many tools that can pretty much do anything, but companies have been very, very slow to adopt them. There are very few cases where I hear a company will come up to me and say, we've adopted AI here, 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 and here. That's very, very rare. So I think adoption is one of the biggest problems. But one of the biggest problems of why we're not using AI to fight AI is because companies aren't building the tools to do that specific job. We are lucky because we were already doing that before it all got really hyper and really popular. But now it's got popular. All the other companies that haven't done it, that are in this space, are now trying to catch up and implement this stuff. So I think it's just a case of there will be the tools out there eventually to do it. It's just a slow case of them developing them. And in that pace where we're waiting for them to develop those tools, the bad guys are going to take advantage of that window and try and hit as many people as possible. But Personally, I think we're okay. It's just going to be a slow adoption rate, but when we get there, we'll get there. It's just a case of changing people's mindsets in companies that if I use a certain tool, my data won't be stolen. You know, there is certain industries where it's very difficult. The medical industry is very, very difficult. Banking can sometimes be a problem. I know I've spoken to a few people that work at a few automotive companies in Germany, and they're very restricted. They're not allowed to touch AI at all because they're very scared of confidential information leaking out. But then when I talk to them about certain tools that have certain policies that can never be the case, they were a lot happier with it. For example, the Sonarbot we have is trained in-house and we run it. So by running our own AI, I mean, we didn't build the AI itself, but it's another product we've used. But because we're the ones maintaining it and keeping it in our domain, we then don't have to worry about stuff leaking out. So I think it's slowly the adoption of people building their own AIs, training their own AIs. I think my biggest worry going forward is people are now putting vulnerabilities into the language models, which is very, very scary. But on the plus side of that, we just introduced a new product yesterday that actually scans your language models for vulnerabilities. So it's a case of companies catching up with the bad guys. The bad guys tend to do something first, and then we react. Again, humans, we're a reactive race, not a proactive race. So unfortunately, we like to do things when it becomes a problem, but we will solve it eventually. It's just a case of slowly catching up. Yeah. Answer your question? Yeah, cool. No worries. Any
Awesome.
questions? Yes.
Any more questions? We will have one over here.
Okay. So, in which technologies your AI infrastructure is based upon? Is it bought
I
from
don't know.
Watson, OpenAI?
Come and ask me afterwards, and I will check you. I'll check for you. I actually only found out about the Sonarbot thing about 2 months ago. Someone randomly mentioned it, and I was like, what? So we have a Slack channel where you just ask it anything. I will find out what technology it's based on, but it is a technology that we host ourselves. But we didn't develop it. We trained it essentially. But all we did is basically give it all our documentation, our website, and a few other things, and it was pretty much fully trained to the point. Because constantly we get sales engineers and salespeople constantly asking stuff that they should probably know already, and they can find that information, but rather than us having to tell them, they can just go and ask this bot, and then now it's peaceful. It's a lot more peaceful life, I'll tell you. So yeah, I'll find out the exact technology we use there. Cool. No worries.
Okay, one more question before we go to a coffee break. No? Okay.
Awesome. Thank you,
So,
everybody.
Jamie, this
Brilliant.
is for you.